Okay, we're here on the last day of Market Monday for the summer session with Joel Cherrico of Joel Cherrico Pottery. And Joel, you've got a little display out here of some firings. You want to explain what we're looking at?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we start over on the I guess your left side here. This is a bisque pot. So this doesn't have any glaze on it. It's a rough surface, and it's actually absorbent. And the reason we bisque fire is so after throwing it on the wheel, it can be dipped into a bucket of glaze and then put out through all these other firing processes. So all this pottery has been fired twice. This is the first firing. And then some of these techniques like the sawdust firing or the sagger firing, these are fired a second time, but still at a fairly low temp. It's usually around 1800 degrees to make a flashing from the sawdust. This uses sawdust, and sometimes, like with these lines, this is from horsehair that's actually put onto the pot when it's red hot. You put horsehair on. This is another type of low temperature technique. This pot was actually pulled out of the kiln at about 1800 degrees and dumped in a barrel of newspaper and sawdust to make this black smoky effect. As we go down the table here, the temperature gets higher. These were salt glazed, so now these are functional. The pots over this way aren't functional. They're rough surfaces and they're porous, but these pots are all you can eat and drink out of them. They're still low temp. This is a low fired functional pot, still around 1800, but you can see it's glossy. So there's a lot of overlap in different types of firing processes that you can do. You can do 1800 degrees and non-functional or totally functional. And as we move farther over, we get higher in our temperature. So these were all fired between 2,400 and 2,200 degrees. And this one, for example, is in a wood kiln. So the wood and the ashes are actually making all this color variation. So kind of like sawdust, it has a lot of variation except more vibrant colors. And this is actually functional. I know this is a bottle, but you can eat and drink off of this surface. This is electric fired, so just a different type of kiln, and no flame at all. It's just electric elements that heat up to the same temperature, but because there's no flame, this pot actually had glaze applied and dripped. These are just dots of glaze that were dripped. And this is the process that I use. This is reduction fire. So it's kind of in between electric firing and wood firing. There's still flame floating through the kiln, but we call it reduction because it's a gas flame, and I really crank the gas, so it's a lot of gas floating around through the piece, and it makes the variations in color. This pot is another gas-fired one. You can see the color variations. That's coming from the natural gas flame. And this is the hottest temperature. It's about 2,400 degrees. And I use that for all my work, so it's completely functional and durable. Make anything from coffee mugs to go in and out of the dishwasher to bakers or these chip and dip bowls for the dishwasher. So it's all stoneware fired in a gas kiln.
All right, thanks, Joel.